Ladies and gentlemen, the old version of you cannot carry you to your destiny because the person you have been up until now was only equipped to take you this far. Every stage of life requires a higher version of yourself. Think about it this way. When a seed grows into a tree, it cannot remain a seed. The shell must break, the soil must be pushed aside, and the fragile sprout must risk the sunlight in order to become what it was designed to be. The seed version cannot carry the tree version into maturity. And in the same way, the old you cannot carry the destined you into the future you were created for. Many people remain stuck because they cling to habits, mindsets, and environments that served them in the past but are no longer useful for their future. The old version of you may have been shaped by fear, by playing it safe, by trying to fit into other people's expectations, or by simply surviving through hard times. That version of you was necessary then, because it carried you through those moments, but it was never meant to be permanent. Just as a child cannot hold on to a toy forever and expect to grow into maturity, you cannot hold on to the patterns of your past and still expect to fulfill the greatness ahead of you. Destiny requires transformation, and transformation demands that something must die. If you want to step into a higher place in life, something within you must be left behind. Maybe it's the procrastination that keeps you from taking bold steps. Maybe it's the self-doubt that whispers you are not good enough. Maybe it's the tendency to blame circumstances instead of taking responsibility. These habits and patterns may have been your companions for years, but they are heavy chains on the path to your destiny. Carrying them forward is like running a race with weights strapped to your legs. You will move, but never at the pace or with the freedom you were meant to. The old version of you might have been someone who settled for less because settling felt safe. But your destiny requires you to stretch. The old you might have believed in small possibilities because dreaming bigger felt unrealistic. But your destiny requires you to see beyond the limitations of your past. The old you might have tolerated negativity in your life because you didn't believe you could change your surroundings. But your destiny requires you to step into environments that fuel your growth and push you toward your potential. Every level of destiny requires a new level of discipline, courage, and faith. The old you cannot give that to you because the old you is built on yesterday's limitations. To step forward, you must be willing to shed the old identity that kept you small. It may be uncomfortable. It may feel like a part of you is dying. But unless you let the old self go, the new you will never emerge. Destiny does not wait for the old version of you to catch up. It waits for you to transform. Survival is not living because survival is the lowest form of existence, a state where the goal is only to make it through the day, to breathe, to eat, to sleep, and to repeat the cycle without progress, joy, or fulfillment. Living, on the other hand, is about purpose, passion, growth, and contribution. Too many people confuse survival with life, believing that as long as they are paying bills, staying afloat, and avoiding disaster, they are living, but that is not the truth. Survival keeps you in a constant state of limitation, where you settle for the bare minimum rather than reaching for the fullness of what life has to offer. When you are in survival mode, you are reactive instead of proactive. You respond to circumstances instead of shaping them, and you endure instead of thriving. Survival is the mindset that says, I just need to get through this, while living is the mindset that says, I am here to grow, to create, to build, and to experience. When people operate only in survival, they deny themselves the opportunity to expand their potential. They may get by, but they never get ahead. They may be alive, but they are not truly living. Living requires risk, effort, and courage. It requires stepping outside of the comfort zone and refusing to accept mediocrity as the standard. Life of mere survival shrinks dreams into manageable pieces, while a life of true living dares to dream beyond what seems possible and to pursue it with conviction. Consider the difference between an animal in the wild and an animal in a cage. The caged animal survives. It is fed, it is sheltered, and its basic needs are met. But the animal in the wild lives. It hunts, it roams freely, it experiences the fullness of what it was designed to do. Many people choose the cage of survival because it feels safer. But in that cage, there is no growth, no adventure, no freedom. Living requires stepping out of the cage, facing risks, and discovering the greatness that lies beyond what is merely safe. Survival also robs you of joy, because it narrows your focus to what you lack. instead of what you can create. People who live only to survive often say, if I can just make it through this week, or if I can just pay this bill. But living is not about scraping through days and years. Living is about building a vision, investing in your gifts, loving deeply, contributing to others, and leaving a legacy behind. When survival is the only goal, you miss the beauty of the present and the opportunities to design a better future. It is important to understand that survival may be necessary at times. Everyone faces seasons when simply holding on is all they can do, and that is part of the human journey. But staying in survival mode permanently is a tragedy, because you were not created to exist in that state forever. You were created with the capacity to grow, to conquer challenges, to expand your mind, and to impact the world around you. Settling for survival when you are capable of living is like owning wings but refusing to fly. It is like being given a powerful voice but choosing silence. It is wasting the potential of life itself. Living requires intention. It requires the decision to rise above merely existing and to pursue the fullness of what life offers. To live means to step into your calling, to embrace your uniqueness, to chase your dreams, to use your talents, and to serve something greater than yourself. Living demands courage, while survival demands only endurance. When you choose to live, you step into abundance rather than scarcity, purpose rather than drifting, and fulfillment rather than emptiness. This is why survival is not living. Killing the old you is not disrespecting your past, because your past is what brought you to where you are today. But it was never meant to be a permanent address. Every season of your life has played a role in shaping who you are, teaching you lessons, and preparing you for what is ahead. But just because the old version of you had a purpose at one stage does not mean it belongs in every stage. Growth means moving forward, and moving forward requires letting go of patterns, habits, and mindsets that no longer serve your destiny. The past deserves respect, but it does not deserve control. Respecting your past means acknowledging it, appreciating what it taught you, and then allowing yourself to evolve beyond it without guilt or hesitation. Many people confuse transformation with rejection. They believe that in order to step into something new, they must deny or erase the value of what came before. But this is not true. Killing the old you is not about dishonoring your past self. It is about understanding that what carried you yesterday cannot carry you tomorrow. For example, the way you thought as a child helped you survive childhood, but those same thoughts would not allow you to succeed as an adult. The same principle applies to every stage of life. The mindset that kept you safe in one season can become the very mindset that traps you in the next. To kill the old version of you is simply to accept that who you were is not enough to take you where you are going. Your past self may have been necessary to endure hardship. Perhaps the old you tolerated things just to survive, held back dreams because they seemed impossible, or accepted less than you deserved because you did not yet know your value. That does not mean the old you was wrong. It means that version of you served a purpose at that time. But once the lesson is learned, once the strength is built, and once the truth of your potential is revealed, it becomes your responsibility to release that version of yourself and step into the higher one. Holding on to the old self out of nostalgia or fear is like refusing to leave a classroom after you have already graduated. It is not disrespectful to move on. It is disrespectful to your future if you refuse to grow. Sometimes people are afraid to kill the old version of themselves because they feel it invalidates everything they've gone through. They think, if I let go of who I was, then all my struggles, all my sacrifices, all my mistakes will mean nothing. But the truth is the opposite. Killing the old you is the highest form of honoring your past because it says, I learned from you. I took everything you had to give, and now I will use it as a foundation to build something greater. Every scar, every failure, every mistake becomes valuable only when it is transformed into wisdom and fuel for the future. If you cling to the old self, then the pain of your past remains just pain. But if you release the old you, that pain becomes a stepping stone to purpose. There is also freedom in realizing that your past self is not your identity. You are not defined by who you used to be, but by who you are becoming. Killing the old you is not a betrayal. It is liberation. It means you refuse to be imprisoned by old patterns of thinking, old labels, or old limitations. It means you give yourself permission to outgrow the places and people that no longer align with where you are headed. To kill the old you is to say, I honor where I have been, but I refuse to stay there. I choose to rise higher. That is not disrespecting your past. That is fulfilling its purpose. The old you versus the new you is the battle every person must face if they want to step into their full potential. The old you represents the habits, mindsets, fears, and limitations that kept you in a cycle of comfort and predictability, while the new you represents growth, transformation, and the courage to live at a higher level. The old you is tied to the familiar even when the familiar does not serve you, while the new you calls you toward the unknown, demanding faith and action. This inner conflict is what determines whether a person stays stuck in mediocrity or breaks through into greatness. The old you is safe, but the new you is necessary. The old you is the version that made excuses for why things could not be done, while the new you takes responsibility and finds solutions. The old you might wake up each morning dreading the day, dragging through life without passion or direction, while the new you wakes up with intention, determined to seize opportunities and make progress. The old you is reactive, always waiting for circumstances to dictate your decisions, while the new you is proactive, shaping circumstances and refusing to be defined by them. The old you often seeks comfort over growth. It avoids risks because risks carry the possibility of failure, and failure feels threatening. But the new you understands that failure is not the enemy. Stagnation is. But holding on to what no longer belongs in your life is far more damaging than the temporary pain of release. Growth requires space, and you cannot step into the new while your hands are still clinging to the old. Fear is another layer of pain and transformation. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of stepping into the unknown can feel overwhelming. It is painful to silence those doubts, to act in spite of trembling, to face the risk of not succeeding. But fear loses its power the moment you act against it. Each time you choose courage over fear, you chip away at the chains that have bound you. And although the process stings, it frees you to rise into the person you were meant to become. Transformation also demands the pain of patience. Change is rarely instant. It takes time to rewire your mind, to build new habits, and to see the fruits of your effort. Waiting while working can feel like agony, especially when results are not visible right away. Yet patience develops endurance, and endurance develops strength. Without this waiting period, your growth would be shallow and easily broken. The pain of patience is the training ground for resilience. Perhaps the deepest pain of transformation comes from facing yourself honestly, looking in the mirror and confronting your weaknesses, your excuses, and the lies you've told yourself is not easy. Admitting that you are the one holding yourself back can cut deeply, but honesty is the foundation of freedom. Only when you acknowledge what must change can you truly begin to transform. Transformation requires pain because nothing valuable comes without cost. Comfort never created greatness, and ease never built strength. The pain you endure is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the evidence that something powerful is being born in you. Without that pain, you would remain the same. But with it, you are being reshaped into a version of yourself capable of carrying your destiny. Breakthrough requires decision because no amount of wishing, hoping, or waiting can create change until you make a firm choice to step into it. Every breakthrough in life begins the moment you decide that enough is enough, that the old patterns are no longer acceptable, and that you are ready to do whatever it takes to move forward. Decision is the doorway between where you are and where you want to be, and until that door is opened, nothing new can enter your life. You can pray for breakthrough, dream about breakthrough, and talk about breakthrough, but if you never decide to act, breakthrough will remain just an idea instead of becoming a reality. The power of decision lies in its finality. A true decision is not a half-hearted wish or a temporary choice that can easily be reversed. It is a firm commitment that says, I will not turn back. When you make that kind of decision, something shifts inside you. Excuses lose their power, distractions lose their hold, and obstacles become challenges instead of barriers. Many people fail to experience breakthrough not because they are incapable, but because they never made a real decision. They entertained the idea of change but kept the door open to return to old habits. Breakthrough requires a decisive cut from the past, a moment where you declare with conviction that there is no going back. A decision is powerful because it gives direction to your actions. Without decision, your energy is scattered,